Ian Morrison, and how are you? It's so nice to see you again. It's been a while, and delighted to be here with you this evening to chat with you about receiving the Honorary Alumni Award, and would love to ask you some questions to share with our alumni community.
Well, thanks very much, Una. It's great to see you again as well, and I'm very pleased to be here for this award that I'm quite proud of, and it's quite a prestigious designation. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And as I say, we're going to ask you some questions. And I'm going to start with probably the most logical one in this type of scenario, and kind of create that landscape of Acadia for our viewers and ask you, so many years ago, what attracted you to Acadia in the first place?
Oh boy, that's going back a few years. Of course, I came to Acadia in 1993. And the real reason I came was because of the opportunity I had to work with the Students' Union. And in particular, at that point in time, the position of Student Center Manager was available. And I had been a former student leader at St. Mary's, so I didn't attend Acadia. But at St. Mary's, I totally loved the experience of being a student leader. And when the opportunity arose to do that, to be a mentor, I guess, and a coach and somebody that worked in that type of an environment on a permanent basis, well, I really couldn't pass that opportunity up. And to tell you the truth, what I did was I saw the advertisement in the newspaper, and I hopped in my car. I was living in Halifax at the time, and I drove up and I had an idea who would be doing the interview, so I went and met them and introduced myself to them, and I handed in my application, and fortunately I was hired for the position and started a few weeks after that. So realistically, I just jumped at the chance to come to Acadia.
I'm sure there's a comment or a joke in there that I'm supposed to make comparing one institution to the other, but I won't. I will say, if you started in 93, we just missed each other. So I just graduated and you just started, but I'm so delighted that years later we were able to reconnect in an administrative capacity at the university together. So, you and I have chatted many times over the years and worked with a lot of different people over the years. Is there anyone whom you met on campus who was particularly influential in your career and your career choices?
Yeah, for sure. There was. And it actually probably started a little before I got to Acadia, if that makes some kind of sense, because basically I had certain people that pointed me here and then certain people that kept me here, if that resonates. So when I think back, my parents, first of all, very strongly encouraged and promoted the value of a university education, and that was something that my parents instilled in me, and I had the support from my family to pursue that kind of an education. And to be honest, my dad didn't have the opportunity to go to university, although I'm sure he would have loved that opportunity if it had come his way. But I remember him telling me before I went off to first year, he had told me that I was going to meet people from all over the world, and I was going to be exposed to different points of view and different ways of seeing and doing things. And he really encouraged me to take full advantage of that and to learn as much as I could from other people. So I really embraced that. And when I went to my alma mater, then I became involved in campus activities and had a great experience there. And when I was there as a student leader, I often looked with a degree of envy to Acadia, and in particular Acadia Students' Union, because they were viewed as really an innovative leader in student service delivery within not only the region but within the country. So it was a place that I always kind of had an eye on, and so from that vantage point, that kind of pointed me in this direction. And I worked with a couple of folks at St. Mary's who opened my eyes to the possibility of working with student leaders in a student union capacity. So that's a little bit of the backstory. But when I did get to campus, I had a great boss that I worked under by the name of Craig Kennedy, and he's a friend, a coach, and a mentor to this day. And he really was a great person to work for, and I worked for him for about 6 years before I moved in his position when he took a job elsewhere. So when you factor in his role, that was certainly important to me. And then while I was working with the student union, I look upon my coworkers, my other full-time staff members that I worked with, and student leaders that as people that helped keep me grounded and kept me motivated at Acadia for all those years. You know, when I worked with roughly 120 elected and or appointed ASU leaders during that time. So there was certainly a lot of people to learn from.
That's an incredible number, Ian. And I guess I never really did the math or thought about how many student leaders you would have had the opportunity to work with. And you would have seen a lot of different opinions and backgrounds and attitudes and leadership styles during that time. So that's incredible. And so appreciate your comments about your dad and your dad's recommendations. I don't know if I'd be dating us by asking you if you remember the show Father Knows Best. I don't know if that's something you remember, but you know, our dads certainly have an influential role in many of our lives. And Craig Kennedy, great memory as well. There's a name I know, and certainly I'm delighted to hear that you two are still connected. So what about, and it's like pick one, but I'm going to ask, what's one of, if not your fondest Acadia memory?
Well, it would be really tough to narrow it down to one, but there's different experiences and different dates that do stick out in my mind, and one would be November 10th, 1999, which was actually the 50th anniversary of the ASU building, and we had quite a celebration, and at that time, which the student leaders helped organize. And I think that was important because the building has played such an important role in the lives of so many students over so many years since it was opened in 1949. And we actually put in place a cornerstone and a time capsule, which is in the side of the old sub today. So that's something that sticks out. But there's other times as well. I think in the same vein, the ASU celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2017, and those kind of dates sort of impress upon you the fact that there's been many people that have been involved with getting your organization to where it is today, and getting the student body and the campus to where it is today. And it's important to kind of acknowledge and remember those. The year I came to Acadia in 1993, Acadia was making a run for the national championship in hockey, and we were successful in winning that year, and that was quite an experience. And what I didn't realize was that those experiences don't come along every year. We were lucky that to have that in 1993 and again in 1996. But a particular event that sticks out to me was Acadia's run for the National Basketball Championships in 2008, and in particular March 15th, 2008, which was a special day on campus at Acadia because not only was it Cheaton Cup, but St. Patrick's Day was being celebrated. And we had a watch party that evening in the Axe, in which Acadia in the national semifinal defeated Carleton by a score of 82-80 in double overtime, and that's certainly something that sticks out of my mind. And even though the next day we were narrowly defeated by Brock, I think in the minds of the students, it didn't really matter because everyone was so euphoric over the semifinal win over the 5-time champion Carleton Ravens that it was like we had won the championship anyways. So that was something that was particularly special, and so I often think about that. And also, although I'm closely identified with the ASU leadership team, I also worked with the grad committee for a number of years, and I look back fondly on my time working with you on that committee, and also with Melanie Jackson before that, and Sarah Marsh before Melanie, and those were always enjoyable experiences. And I can honestly say that an event that I absolutely loved was the grad banquet, and in particular the rich traditions that surrounded that event. When you think about it, and you'd have the toast to the university, the toast to the grad class, and the presentation of the class gift, and the unveiling of the class banner, and the valedictorian, and the student awards, and that kind of thing. And that certainly was always a memorable experience to see that event come together, and to work with the student leaders on the grad class to see that event come together. And I guess there's one other anecdote I'd like to share with you, if that was okay. And that was that one great thing about working at the university and working with student leaders is there's the opportunity to establish new traditions. And we did that in 2015, and I'm sure you remember that was the year that we started the tradition of passing the axe from one grad class leadership team to the next leadership team. And that's kind of one of those unique traditions that was created as part of that event. And I remember the grad committee that year had talked about a way to kind of visualize that transition from one grad class to the next grad class. So they talked about the idea quite a bit and came up with the idea that maybe an actual axe could kind of symbolize how they do that. So Rebecca Carr was the president at the time, and the secretary was Morrison, and he actually was the person that was responsible for finding something that would replicate an axe. And I remember he came to see me about that, and we talked about some ideas, and I had recollected that the previous year, our student union president, who at that time was Matt Rios, and of course he sits on the alumni board now. He had made up small handcrafted axes, which he then had given to a few of our student leaders on Students Representative Council that had served really long periods of time of involvement. So there was about 2 or 3 of these things that he had made up, and they were hand carved, and they were really nice, but they were quite expensive. And I'm sure that for a period of time it was a bit of a source of tension between Matt and I, but we would eventually get over that. And I remember joking with him at the time, and I said, Matt, you could have just went out and bought an axe and gave him that. It would have been a lot cheaper. And so I pitched that idea to Morrison when he came to see me. I said, why don't we just go buy an axe and get it engraved, and that'll be that will represent the passing of the axe from one year to the next. And so that particular year, the official supplier of the grad class gift to its successor class was the Canadian Tire. So those are just kind of a few anecdotes and that I recall. But I guess, as you know, not all the memories were happy ones. There were some bitter ones, and as you know, Una, yourself, tragedy hits our community quite hard. So in that context, I think about the passing of Ruth Petter-Cannon when she passed away, and also in 2013 when Sydney Taylor tragically passed away just prior to grad weekend that year. And tragedy does hit our community hard, but the community always does respond with dignity. And when I think about those events, they bring context back about the fragility of human life, but the strength of the human spirit.
Very, very well said, Ian, all of it. And I must admit, you took me down memory lane, a great trip down memory lane with all of those stories. And it's my favorite question to ask in these interviews. And what I refer to is the goosebump factor. And you got me several times on the goosebump factor with those stories on both sides of the coin. Absolutely. The axe is probably the funniest one, because now it gets handed around and looked after, and in high safety protocol we have the blade covered with a wool sock, aptly, when it's being transitioned from person to person. So we're going to focus a little bit now on the award, on the designation that you have been honored with. And I'd like to know if you can share with us what it means to you to have been named as an honorary alumni.
Well, truthfully, it's a tremendous honor. And in fact, I would say it's probably the greatest recognition I could possibly imagine that I could receive. And I'm truly appreciative of the 5 former student leaders that nominated me for this, and that's quite an honor to be nominated. It's quite an honor to have your nomination considered, and it's an even greater honor to be given the prestigious award that this is. So it's something that means a great deal to me. I do have to say that part of me, though, does accept this with a bit of doubt and a bit of trepidation, and I guess I'll tell you why. Because I felt that in the position that I was in, I was kind of in the right place at the right time for a lot of things. For example, working at the student union, it was always a very stable organization throughout the years, so I benefited from that. I had terrific coworkers whose input I valued, and they helped me a great deal. And we had a very experienced team at the ASU. In fact, I think around the time that I left, I had figured it out that between our 7 full-time staff, there was 140 years of Acadia experience that had built up among that group of 7 people. And that's something that I strongly feel the organization, and the campus for that matter, really benefited from. We always had competent and hardworking student leaders who were interested in the well-being of the organization, and they provided context and inspiration to everything that I was involved in, I thought. So all of those forces, I think, periodically pushed and pulled me. And as you know yourself, sometimes you do pushing, but sometimes you need to be pushed by other people, and that certainly helped me along. So I really felt that I was in the right place at the right time, and I think that anything that good that came of my efforts is certainly no small part of that belongs to those aforementioned people.
Thank you for that, Ian. And I see the award proudly displayed on the wall behind you, and hope that it stays there for a long time, as much of what you have done and the memories you have shared will stay with us for a very, very long time. I think some of what you just mentioned in answering that question may very well be a good segue into the next question that I have for you. And that's if you could offer some insight as to why you think it's important for the Alumni Association to recognize members of the community, both the Acadia and the alumni community.
Well, it's extremely important because the Acadia alumni is such an important part of the community. And in general, I think, Una, we don't tend to celebrate success enough. And I think we tend to downplay success in our society. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think that only good things can come from celebration and acknowledgement. It establishes connection. It provides inspiration and motivation for other people. It builds tradition. And at the same time, by the Alumni Association celebrating the accomplishments of others, they are actually celebrating the important contributions that they make themselves as an organization. And that's vital not only to the well-being of the campus, but the broader community as well.
Again, well said. Hear, hear. Ian, your primary focus over 25-year career at Acadia was essentially effective management of the ASU and student success, as you shared many stories to help illustrate that. Can you describe your impact as an administrator and mentor on those students, those 150 plus, so not just the executive, who after graduation went on to represent Acadia and the alumni community in the best way possible?
Truthfully, I think it's not something that I really thought about, because the way I approached it was that when I went to university, I had such a terrific experience that I was very committed to the idea that other people should have a similar experience, and that it was really something that would make your university experience stand out. So realistically, when I was working at the ASU, the Acadia Students Union, regardless of what leader I was working with or was associated with at a given time, I wanted them to have as great an experience as I felt I had. That I would try to replicate that in so many different ways for them, so that they could have the type of experience that really I knew I felt that they deserved. And I think over time, I came to realize something about my role, and it's probably true of your role and roles of other people on campus that have worked closely with students during their time, and that is that we all have a job description. And in that job description, there's technical identifiers about things that you have to do, whether it's financial in scope or human resource in scope or whatever. But I came to realize that the most important part of the job description wasn't actually in the job description. Because I felt, and I often said to some of my colleagues, that realistically, the primary focus of our job is to create the events and the experiences that then in turn create a lifetime of memories for the people that are there. And that's realistically what we do. We as staff, we create the opportunity for them to have a lifetime of memories. And that's our job, and that's really basically it.
And you identified so many of them as you shared some stories about your fondest memories at Acadia, and couldn't agree with you more on the grad banquet description and explanation of everything that goes on there. And you and I both know that, that's the culmination of their time at Acadia, but it often represented it so well and sent them off in such a manner of just great memories, experiences, and positivity. Absolutely. So how gratifying has it been to have had a hand in the development and growth of so many young people? On a scale from 1 to 10. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it would be off the scale, that's for sure, because I feel extremely blessed to have had the opportunity that I have had. First of all, working with students and working with student leaders, it keeps you young, keeps you engaged, and keeps you in tune with what the issues are that are up and coming that they're concerned with, because they do represent the next generation. I always found the energy that they and the positive energy, I should say, that surrounded these various student leaders and leadership teams that I work with. I found it very uplifting. It was a rewarding experience for me personally it was an experience that I think I really was able to expand my personal growth from, and I think it broadened in a great extent my own abilities. So it was a terrific opportunity, and in any job you will always have good days and bad days. That's just a normal occurrence of being somebody that's in the working world. But I can honestly say I never remember having two bad days in a row in all my years at Acadia. It just never happened. It always seemed like when something didn't go your way one day, the next day was always a bounce back day. And I think in part of that was because to me it was never really work. We just had so much fun. It didn't seem like a job. It just was really more of an experience than anything else.
Mm, absolutely. And in all of those days and instances, you never know when something you say or something you do is going to have an impact on those young leaders who have since gone on to do tremendous things in the world and will continue to, as the years pass. So speaking of years passing, Ian, tell us a little bit about where you're at now and what your future looks like.
Sure. Well, of course, I left Acadia in August of 2019. So since that time, I've been employed as the Chief Administrative Officer and Clerk Treasurer for the village of New Minas, which, of course, is just adjacent to the beautiful town of Wolfville. And and I'm also currently enrolled in and will complete in June my certificate in local government administration, and that's through Dalhousie University. So since that time, I've kept busy here in the village. We've got a number of projects on the go. In addition to serving our 5,500 residents as a municipal unit within the municipality of Kings, we're embarking on a secondary plan for lands that are held by the village on the south side of the 101 highway. So a group has been tasked with forging ahead with what development in that area of a residential and commercial and recreational nature might look like. So that's pretty exciting for the future, not only of this village, but also the surrounding communities that benefit from what we have here in New Minas. And I guess I'm just content doing it to see where the road takes me. I don't really have any plans other than that. But I would say that Acadia means a great deal to me personally, and having had the opportunity to work with so many people there over the years, and some of whom have graduated and gone on to other things, that means a lot to me. So I certainly want to stay connected to Acadia in some way, because the success of the university does mean a great deal to me.
Well, thankfully for us, you haven't gone too far geographically, so a visit back anytime is fairly easy. Of course, once we get to the other side of this pandemic and life gets back to the way we used to know it. So please come back and visit regularly. You know what? I drive past your place of work almost on the daily basis, so maybe I'll drop in and say hello a little more regularly. Ian, thank you so much for the time that you've shared with us this evening. I really appreciate it. And again, congratulations on behalf of the Office of Advancement and the Alumni Association for receiving the Alumni Association's Honorary Alumni Award.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you again for this incredible honor. And long live Acadia.